Welcome to Out of My Mind. My name is Robinson Wells, and the trigger warning is also the title. Today we're talking about self harm. If self harm is something that you have a problem with, that you're particularly sensitive to, then be aware that we're going to be discussing a couple of things in depth. I don't want to get I don't want this talk to turn into something that glorifies violence or anything like that, but I will be describing behaviors. And if you are sensitive to that, then please, I'll just come back and we'll see you on Monday instead of today on Thursday. Let me tell you a story. Uh, Self harm was one of the very first problems that arose after I started having anxiety problems. Though I didn't recognize it at the time, and I didn't link the two because I hadn't done any research into it, and I hadn't. Uh, it was a thing that was happening while these other things were happening, but in my mind, it started so oddly that I didn't connect them. Basically, what happened is that I would be going down the stairs to our basement every day, and as I would go, I would think, wouldn't it be great if I could fall down these stairs? And I would imagine that. And I'd fallen down the stairs a couple of times, and so I knew that it hurt to fall down these stairs. But at the time, I just thought, wouldn't it be great to fall down these stairs? I never did, but that was that ideation at the time, that self harm ideation. What it turned into soon was I had this desire to punch something until I broke my hand. Wouldn't it be great if I could just punch something and break my hand? And I could imagine the pain in my fingers, and I could imagine that just that damage that would be done to my hand, and I wanted it so badly, but I didn't know why. It and at this point I still hadn't even seen a psychiatrist and didn't have any idea why I was doing it and or anything like that. Um, that turned into, wouldn't it be great if I could punch myself, or wouldn't it be great if I could bleed from my head? And with my punching, I would punch myself in the face. Um, and later, I would imagine as I was sitting in our living room, there was a corner of the wall that just came to a corner, and I would stare at it while the TV was right here and the wall was here, and that corner was so attractive that I would be sitting watching TV with my wife, but I was halfway thinking, uh, oh, I put myself in the shadow. I was halfway thinking, uh, I just want to get up and smash my head right into that. What that turned into was what I ended up with, which is dermatillomania, which is digging in my skin. You can see there on my scalp, where I don't cut myself with a blade, but I dig into my head with my fingernails to make myself bleed, and it bleeds, and I do it, and I have been doing it for 5 6 years now, and I try not to do it, but that siren song is so enticing uh, that it sounds so good to do it. So what is self harm? Why on earth would someone want to dig into their head? Why would I crave blood? It seems to be so counterintuitive. Well, the truth is that self harm whether it is OCD or borderline personality disorder or panic disorder or generalized anxiety, all of those things can lead to it. What self harm is it's not a mental illness. It is a coping mechanism. It is a coping mechanism for dealing with anxiety. You feel that anxiety and it starts to boil up, and it needs a release. And people turn to self harm. And I turn to self harm. I don't scratch my head when I'm not feeling anxious. But when I am starting to worry about, am I going to hit this deadline? Am I going to be able to pay the bills on time? Am I being a good dad to my kids? Am I being responsible in my family? And I start to have all these worries, and admittedly, 95% of my worries that lead to anxiety are all money based. And we can get into that in a different episode. But I will start down this avalanche, a few stones rolling down, and it builds and builds. And eventually I need to do something. And I have coping mechanisms that I have as alternatives to picking. The problem is that picking is so easy and convenient because all I have to do is put my hand right here, and I can do it while it doesn't look like I'm being weird. No one would notice that I was doing it if they are across the room, because it just looks like I'm doing this, or I'll sit with my hand on my head like this. I have developed a few techniques to try to stop myself from picking at my head, from my dermatillomania. I hold my hand. We talked about these in the episode on dermatillomania, so I won't get into them too much. But number one is just wearing a hat. If I have a hat on, I am not interested in picking skin that is not on my head. I don't pick my arms till they bleed. I pick my head. For whatever reason, that is what I do. So wearing a hat is a huge deal. My wife even got me to wear a cowboy hat, and I wore it around for a week or so before I just thought I was completely embarrassing myself. But find coping mechanisms that you can do for when you want to hurt yourself, but you know that you shouldn't. Whether that is meditation, whether that is listening to music. I have recently started lying down on the bed and turning on music actually that I find inspirational. Not religious, actually, the majority of it is show tunes. But I will listen to the music and it will calm my anxiety, and I won't have to dig at my head. There are other things that I do. We're going to have a whole show on coping mechanisms, but I want to hear from you. This will be your homework assignment for today, for Thursday. On Monday, let's talk about coping mechanisms and what you can do as alternatives to hurting yourself. So, people who have anxiety, leave comments in the comments section, or leave comments on my Facebook page, or on Twitter. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/RobisonWells. On Twitter, it's at RobisonWells. On Instagram, it's at RobisonWells. On Pinterest, it's at Robison Wells, although I don't think we want any pictures of self-harm. That would be triggering. Anyway, leave me suggestions on what you do when you have anxiety to mitigate your anxiety, and we will do a show on it on Monday. Anyway, I love you guys. Take care, be safe, don't hurt yourself, and I will see you on Monday.